Good day. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole. And I want to talk about how I've been looking at some shapes. For a long time, we have been looking at some shapes. One shape, for instance, caught my attention was Santa Claus. Santa Claus and his sleigh. Here we have a sleigh. Sleigh, sleigh, sleigh. Pretty typical, pretty standard. Why are they typical and standard? I started asking myself. I was wondering. So I'm looking, and then I see that this sleigh can also, if you flip it, it looks like the phi. Okay? And the sleigh, forget about the word for now being the word slay as in, to kill, right? That's what comes to mind firstly. But slay as in vessel. You have the Ba Ka thing going on. And you have the Santa Claus theme. Santa Claus, many times when I see him, he's in front of a moon. There's a tree. These symbols also are very ancient, spiritual symbols. And they also have separate hidden messages regarding the tree of life, and the moon, dark side of the moon, or stories about the moon being a radio projecting thoughts, helping to control humanity, some people think. So just looking at the sleigh, flipping it upside down like it was Maya, like it was Sky Goddess. The connotations behind some of the symbolism and where they came from. So when I was looking at the sleigh, if you were to make it dark like this, you could see it kind of looks like a lamp. Then you look at light and phi and kar and ka and shadow were the words that came to mind looking at these topics. So I flipped it upside down and I saw the phi. Why is the music tuned wrong? Another thing that I see, besides the subconscious equation to the tree and the moon, the tree of life, and the moon, the dark side of the moon, the things we don't know, the moon connection. Okay? The lies about the moon and all that stuff. You get also with the symbol, many times you see Santa floating across the sky with his reindeer. But if you look, they kind of look like little musical notes. When I was really looking, it looked like musical notes, and seeming how we have the phi and the ba and the ka, the vessel. And these other, it's just amazing how much symbolism, how much unconscious connotation is right here in the face. Just looking at Christmas and Dr. Slavic, the bells with the dogs. I'll make sure I put the proper spelling in here. The Christmas songs, the programming, the bells from the church, add in the programming and then the bells chiming every hour. You know, the conditioning. So, we got Santa Claus, the unconscious mind, the tree, tapping into the unconscious mind, the triple black goddess, and music, and how music was changed from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. Thinking of the sleigh and then flipping it and being able to see that if you, well, before you flip it, if you just darken it, you see that it's looks like a lamp, reminding you of the genie, okay? Genie, genealogy. As ancients, we used to embed many different levels of consciousness and meaning within one symbol. If you got them all, you know what I'm saying? They could lead you to the knowledge of other symbols in the same way that this sleigh, when you really look at it and you darken it and you just look at the outline, you can see the lamp. And then you get the genie and the light. Then you compare that to Santa Claus and the tree of life and the equation to the unconscious mind, or the raising of the Jed, the raising of the Kundalini energy, lighting up your Ba and your Ka. Enlightenment, the and the Ah and the O is measured as a conceptual sound with shareable waves. That's how those are the sounds that go through our mind. If you were to be able to look at a symbol of a light wave and it came out as words or sound, it would be ah, oh, I see. Contemplating that. Ah, I get it. If the words are light code frequencies that we receive, then it does. Energy goes both ways. It may not look exactly the same, but it goes both ways. Can a man enter his mother's womb a second time as an adult? Can a grown man do that? No, not if he's looking at it as a literal vessel going into his mother's womb. But if a man gained wisdom and he looked at knowledge and he realized that earth is a womb and knowledge is a mother, you know, and if you raise your Kundalini or you get enlightened by something, the Ah, the O is very similar to the conceptual or orgasmic interactions of love, of life. And so, yes, a man can go back into his mother's womb if he can learn to appreciate and really truly see his mother. He could be reborn again. Not just of water. Yes, of water, of the Kundalini fire, of fire and water, of spirit and water. Not just of the symbolism by way of church and a priest or a minister, but by way of their own deeds in pursuit of spiritual knowledge and connection with the Creator. So, these things bring a tremendous value to our culture and society. Now, looking at the sleigh also brought me to the time machine, the shape, the same shape of the sleigh I remember seeing in the movie The Time Machine. It's also, if you look at the circle, it's the wheel, the zodiac, the tarot, the rota, the sleigh, the sound wave, the energy frequency that moves across the earth. It's the English If we look at light code frequency and language, our language is English, and angles, light code frequencies are angles of light. Okay, to be able to receive this, we have to be able to see on different layers of perception, like looking at different timelines or different worlds of thought. Words are worlds, concepts made of words, right? They're also a whole different perception. Just look at it like that, you know? If thought forms break down to archons and stuff, then we would have to start breaking and separating some of these images and symbols up. So, I found it most delightful, like so tasty morsel. This thing that I've been looking at my entire life popped out at me, and I conceptualized a thought, and I was like, oh, shoot. The sleigh is the time machine. Yes, and so is the entire concept. A way to move about through consciousness, through space and time. Now, we're looking at the time machine and the way that it looked. Then I'm thinking Santa Claus, the musical notes flying through the sky, the moon, and the tree of life, looking at the sleigh, looking at the time machine, and boom! I saw Tesla. Yes, Nikolai Tesla. Yes. If you look at the pictures and you look at the research, it falls in line with what they're doing with CERN and with quantum demechanics, because they need CERN to be able to do the calculations to run the machine. Nikolai Tesla with the 369. Very numbers that are very close to me. I'm getting more intimate with them. And yeah, so if you look at these pictures of Nikolai Tesla, it clearly, just like disclosure that we get in some of the medium movies, you can see that what we're speaking of now, this research that I came across, the tetrahedron. If you spin or rotate the tetrahedron, if you spin it fast enough, it looks like a bell. And that is getting into some other whole categories of energy, possibly levitation. Levitation, that's what it's doing. Now, it's also lining up with Tesla's research. And looking at this diagram, you see Tesla with next to a machine that looks very much like a flying saucer, another vehicle. Here we see a car, vessel, ship, sleigh, car that looks like a sleigh, red race car. Here you see the witch, and the position of the witch with the broom, a woman being equated to, a car, a model, a race car or a model, what type of woman you have has at times been equated to a vehicle. Ka, Ba, womb space, Dejed, Kundalini energy, the sexual energy, tuning, being in tune, how we relate to one another and our sexual energy, again, is extremely powerful. Not only does it bring together certain types of DNA, that give access to other things, other combinations of things, which we can see when we look at the traits of the zodiac. Perhaps we want particular traits in a person. The ancients used to breed those into their culture deliberately. If you look at sciences like human design, you can see how, you can cultivate some interesting traits in people, or not just cultivate them, identify them as well as cultivate them. So, if you look at the history of the planet, there was a planetary war. Not just the kind of stuff we're thinking about. Our historical war is governed by the planetary wars. And that's on a higher level of understanding. And so, there you have it. The time machine. Looking at different waves of things that have happened to the symbol, telling us a story. When we look at it, we see altered states. If you look at the same symbol of the wheel that's on the back of the sleigh, that's on the back of the time machine, that's on the back of the sleigh, in one of the pictures, it brings us to the unconscious, the notation of Shern and the wheel, the circle at Shern. Now, looking at Tesla, looking at the time machine, I took the circle that was in back and just, rotated the shape a little bit, as I'm learning to do, to look at things not so one-dimensional the way that they give them to me. You gotta move them around in the same way that I have moved a lot of this information around in my little brain. We move the shapes around and you end up with I forget what you call those things, but like it's a ring, a giant ring. And I've seen movies where, in the past, I used to love them, with time travel, where they would step through this giant ring and it would have these glyphs on it. And it was a porthole. That's what it was. A porthole into other dimensions. The other dimensions, other realms, or other layers of thought. Other frequencies that people are allotted to step into. Fascinating. If everything is frequency and vibration, and we're like hitting layers of it as we go through the ages and we start to understand more, start to know more about ourselves, start to some of our own biases and stuff get in the way of us learning. So I was looking at this and I was seeing the wheel and the zodiac and the airways, medium, airways, time travel. These things were traveling through the airs and using frequency and vibration. And all that symbolism, altered states, that was a movie that I saw years ago that was pretty fascinating. This guy actually changed his DNA by accident, by jumping in this hypostasis chamber, this hyper chamber, and meditating, and he would go back in time, back into his DNA. He would implode. He was using implosion in meditation. And he did it so much, he started getting addicted to the results. He was a scientist and stuff. He had a thirst for this knowledge, and the feeling of this chamber and stuff after a while, but the reality around him started to cave in. But he wasn't the only one. At first, he was the only one that was experiencing it, and they thought he was just crazy. But no, then the other people around him began to experience it as well. So in this movie, through this disclosure, it gave you the inclination that even through meditation and through, this hyper chamber, that there are ways that you can travel through space-time to get information, as well as how it may affect your DNA. Look at the things that have been affected. The altered states, arrested development, holding back knowledge, provoking stupidity. Yeah, provoking stupidity. Programming obedience through social engineering. Drugs by way of food and water, by way of chemtrails. We have Santa's little helpers. we have little helpers. We have churches and schools and therapy and mental health. Okay, when we have information all holding up an altered state, a realm of reality that we submit to. Meanwhile, there's people on a whole nother dimension of thought, of knowing. Okay? And they have flipped this thing in our mind, just like, get this, right? When we see, the image is actually flipped upside down in our mind and then flipped right side up again. I mean, the process that our mind does to be able to even see information and then record it is fascinating and amazing, and lets us know that our brains work like a computer. I say again, we are over 70% water. Water holds information. If water holds information and we're over 70% water, then the water in our body holds an information. Dr. Moto did research where he talked to water crystals and he froze them. Whatever intention and frequency vibration, like I love you, you're the best, crystallized it into something that was holistic. Could drink it and you knew it was going to be nurturing and beneficial. It had a crystal formation. Just like if you say something negative, if you have helicopters flying all over, if you're calling people rotten names, you're rotten to the core, I hate you, and then you freeze that. That is going to freeze in a pattern that looks cancerous. If you were to put these things under a microscope, even cells and things like that show patterns. Okay? Just another layer of perception that we place together and build realities. We build worlds, we build concepts in our minds, and then we play them out. Okay, somebody knows that the water in our bodies affects the way that we see reality. Alkaline water brain versus one that's had a lot of sugar or soda. Okay? Put that brain 40, 50 years, 70 years ahead of time drinking soda or water. And will there be a difference on the way that machine, the mind, processes information? It's like having gook in your machine. And so that's why we clean stuff out. That's why that is also necessary to, get those juices and things moving around. It's amazing how our brain works. Just sight alone, and how, if you see, things are just a copy of the original thing. Looking at the picture of Shern could also be not only this clock, but a picture of an eyeball, as well as it being perceived as a space-time tunnel. When we see things, or what we've seen, depending on the way we look at it, is the same thing. It's the same similar concept on a different dimension. My eyes have seen things in the past and processed information. And my eyes see things today, and it collapses, right? It mingles, it's conceptual. I got to have a lot of aha moments just to continue. We get more data. Where does it go? If we have ancestral memory and we're remembering, where is the memory of those who remembered before us? Huh? Where is it? It's all around us. That's where it is. And it's all a matter of perception. It's all frequency and vibration. It's altered states of our arrested development, depending on what we can glean and what we cannot. Our world was not, or our consciousness of this world was not so segmented. As you see, other people are holding certain knowledges, although maybe perhaps they didn't have all the technologies lined up into a particular era, such as we do now. If you're seeing what I'm saying, this stuff was always here. You're talking about time travel. You're talking about Shern. Talking about altered states. You're talking about Santa Claus and the sleigh. You're talking about flipping it and the genie and the lamp. Look at our language and how it goes backwards and forwards. We access by way of perception and intention. And what we have, what we have available in our environment to teach us. If it's rigged so that you don't know, then you simply don't know. Especially if you don't have time to plug in and America's running on, hot air. You need something nurturing. You need food. And this stuff to me is meat. Whereas just seeing a sleigh and Christmas and the Christmas carols and getting the regularly scheduled programming by way of the music. Okay. They know how to embed frequency. I have music here where Christmas music and different music from around the world, and how music can be used to heal. The Hemisync Institute. Hemisync. I'm trying to remember the name exactly of the institute. But hemispheric sync. The way our brain works is just fascinating. Linking up both sides of the mind is imperative. We're out of sync. And some of us actually create things to be able to help with that. Since Hemisync, you can go on the internet and find frequencies and vibrations and healing tones and stuff like that, to be able to bring different altered states to the mind and body, which help change the surroundings. Certain people can't be around certain frequencies. Like if you play frequencies that repel negativity, you'd be surprised how other people just feel like it's intrusive, the sound. They won't like it. It's like the lawnmowers Don't bother those people who are drinking all that soda and taking in all the frequencies and not connected to the earth. The constant sound of that is not bothering, or if you're just accustomed to it, maybe that's your job, and you're outside in nature and you like that frequency or vibration, that does happen. But outside of that, I mean, I wouldn't think that you would have the lawnmower on when you were sitting in your lounge chair trying to watch your favorite show after your job, you know? And so the different frequency is when you're in the house or you're trying to relax and enjoy the sounds of birds and you hear, so many different lawnmowers. That might agitate one person and disturb their frequency, you see. It's a different vibration. Whereas the sound of some healing frequency or vibration would be exactly the same amount as intrusive as that healing frequency is nurturing to me. And I like that sound. Some people, it's not their preference. And so I learned that with some of these things, I have to break a hole in my glass ceiling in my mind, in my heart, in my world, and make a space for them. Make myself fit into that frequency and vibration in order to get the benefits thereof. In the same way that I'm grateful that I was privileged enough to be able to meditate on Santa's sleigh. And this goes a lot deeper, the whole Santa thing. There's the other sidebar categories, topics to go into, like the musical scale, or the moon, or the tree of life, or the unconsciousness and the raising of the consciousness by way of fire, water, kundalini energy, and all that stuff. All the stuff that I mentioned, the way our sight works, and how you could be looking at something. And there's a lot more things like this. Looking at it. But it takes moving it around and flipping it upside down, maybe slapping it, shaking it, contemplating it, spending time with it, conceptualizing it. Things we don't do as much. We don't want to spend time and get to know the people in our own home that we say we love. We have been programmed into a certain mindset. Meanwhile, in the meantime, in this mean old world that it could be, is sometimes, not all the time. There are beautiful moments like the people we love. Those people who give us those beautiful moments, we don't have as much time to contemplate them or to contemplate the things around us, because it's deliberate that we're moving so fast you can't think. Okay? It's the juice. That's the battery juice. Why don't we have time to contemplate more? And even, why aren't these things being pointed out so that people can get the benefits of them and meditate on them and just the good feeling of just freaking spending the time to know this. That the information that someone else put out there helped to give me a flashlight so that I could find my way to other things that I needed to see to grow. It's like healing balm inside. Talk about altered states and changing. What you see, what we meditate on, can change our DNA and our reality. And so, this is Regina's Rabbit Hole, And I am ending this part of the sleigh. To slay during this time of the New World Order and their agenda of population control is no different than the galactic stories that I've heard about, the Earth Wars and how this is about DNA. Anywho, because certain DNA does access certain traits and things by way of universal law. Okay, and so right in our face, these symbols of the wheel and consciousness and the ba and the ka and all that leading to the different states of reality. Perception being one of the keys, as well as intention. It's like the dodecahedron axis is heart, earth grid, and DNA. What? Intention, geograph, and your makeup. And a triangulation. It all starts in inner space. Doesn't start out there because everything that we see beyond ourselves, we are bringing our own biases and perceptions, liberations, whatever is inside of us, we bring to the table, even when we don't realize it, because it's embedded. It's a part of us. We copy the same symbols and shapes over and over and over again. We embed. We get deeper meaning and lesser meaning. We are programmed for the lesser meaning, just enough to operate and contemplate on surface levels. Okay? Just like the Bible verse, just like the sleigh turning into these other aspects. Okay? Alrighty. Anyway, this is Regina's Rabbit Hole. With them, take what you need and leave the rest. Respect and much love to you and yours. I'm out.